The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders...
Celeste?
When a virtuoso musician vanishes in the middle of a performance...
I'm calling the police.
Investigators discover there's a killer waiting in the wings.
Just leave me alone, please.
And everyone is a suspect.
Fingerprint time.
Do you think this is a game? Do I look like a fool to you?
Will they be able to penetrate a closed world of bitter rivalry and ambition to catch a killer?
Do not let anyone in for any reason.
Or will someone get away with murder? Celeste is a young virtuoso cellist who just graduated top of her class from a music conservatory in the south of France. She's left the provinces behind and moved to the City of Lights, determined to make a name for herself as a soloist. And Celeste has come a long way in just 2 years. She's worked her way up the ranks to second cello in an illustrious orchestra. But she has her eyes on being first cello and is willing to do whatever it takes to be the best, even if it means making enemies along the way.
Like the song says, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll, even if what you're playing is Mozart and Beethoven. Behind those lovely harmonies, the classical music world is cutthroat. Kind of reminds me of my time at the FBI, because to make it in an orchestra, you gotta be driven, ruthless, and super talented. Celeste is all of the above, and that makes her fellow cello players nervous. Let's say they're highly strung. Yeah, she's made a few enemies, but that's the price you pay to be top of your game.
Celeste is so focused on her music that she has no time for romance. But even if Celeste isn't looking for Mr. Right, someone definitely has his eye on her.
Celeste is young, talented, and beautiful, on her way to the lofty heights of the classical music world. Of course she has fans. Now maybe this is just the cop in me, but there's always something a little creepy about secret admirers. Sure, if my poetry was that lousy, I'd probably want to remain anonymous too. But flattering as it might be, you gotta stay wise, because your secret admirer could be just a few cheap rhymes away from becoming a stalker. And no one wants that kind of fan.
It's opening night of the musical event of the season. And the opera house is packed with the who's who of Paris society. But tonight, Celeste is feeling under the weather. She lives by the words, "The show must go on," so nothing short of a natural disaster will prevent her from picking up her bow for the final acts. When the opera resumes, Celeste is nowhere to be seen. And when the concert's over, she doesn't come back to the orchestra pit to get her instrument.
It might not seem like a big deal, but you gotta remember, with musicians, their instruments are like their babies. They don't just leave them lying around. Not to mention, a cello like Celeste is worth several $1,000s. She would never just leave it. There is definitely a bum note in this situation.
Celeste?
Celeste's friend Amelie knows that she isn't feeling well and thinks she might be resting backstage.
Have you seen Celeste?
Who?
Celeste Dimwit. Second cello.
Whatever, lady.
If Celeste found a quiet place to rest during the intermission,
Celeste?
she might have fallen asleep.
Are you back here?
But the backstage service corridors are confusing to anyone unfamiliar with them, and the musicians rarely have any reason to venture there.
Dominic.
So, did you find my runaway cellist?
No, but I found her shoe lying in the hallway.
No. So what?
So that's weird, no? Who leaves their shoe lying in the hallway? I think there was blood. Maybe we should call the police. Something terrible might have happened.
Don't be silly. It's a good riddance as far as I'm concerned.
I'm calling the police.
Inspector Javel has detective work in her blood. She's from a long line of police officers stretching back to the days of Eugène Vidal, the first French detective and the inspiration for Sherlock Holmes.
So, has Celeste ever done this before? Left in the middle of a concert?
No.
Romantic problems?
No?
So here we have a musician who never misses a day of practice, let alone half a concert performance, and she has up and vanished. Her friends found her shoe near a trail of blood backstage.
Show me where that shoe is.
But if anyone can figure out what's going on, it's our inspector. She's a lot like Celeste herself, determined and meticulous, and nothing escapes her attention, like Dominic's attitude towards the situation. Javel sees right off the bat that her missing cello player has rivals.
This is where I found the shoe.
Don't touch that. There might be evidence. You two, go back to the rehearsal room and wait for me. Do not leave the building.
It's down there.
Deep in the backstage passageways, Inspector Javel discovers signs of a struggle. There's a streak of blood next to the abandoned shoe.
Quite the night at the opera so far, isn't it? Now, we all know that in show business, things go on behind the scenes and we all want a glimpse. The thing is, you rarely get one. But if you're in the crook-catching business, your badge is a backstage pass to the darkest corners of human nature. And our inspector is shining a light into a very dark nook indeed. Looks like our missing cello player took her final bow. And this is clearly not some random thing. I mean, it's not like she's strayed into a bad neighborhood. It's an opera house full of civilized people, right? If all of this is reminding you of a certain famous story, just remember, in real life, there are no phantoms, but there are killers. And there's one on the loose right now.
Get me the medical examiner on the line and lock down the building. Do not let anyone in or out for any reason.
To Inspector Javel, Celeste's murder has all the hallmarks of a sexually motivated crime.
After a few years of working homicide, you learn how killers think and how they do things. And in Murder 101, you learn that killers almost always try to hide the body. I mean, it seems obvious, right? Celeste has been tied up and partially undressed. To me, this looks like the killer wants to send some kind of message. Whoever murdered Celeste has something to say.
When Inspector Javel searches Celeste's locker, she finds the anonymous love letter. It could be a key clue. If she finds who wrote it, she might find Celeste's killer. Inspector Javel collects prints from everyone in the building as she takes their statements.
It's going to be a long haul for our inspector. From an investigative point of view, it's a logistical nightmare. Everyone in the building is a suspect.
I can't believe it. Why would someone do this to her?
She can narrow things down a bit because whoever hid Celeste in the utility closet wasn't an audience member. They don't have access to backstage. But that still leaves over 100 people, musicians, stagehands, cleaning staff, managers, and any one of them could be the killer. But there's a technique we call containment, and just like it sounds, that means keeping all your suspects in one place like fish in a fish tank, so no one's going anywhere.
Are you sure Celeste had no romantic issues? Maybe an ex-boyfriend that wanted to do her harm?
She had a casual thing with someone here a while ago, but
Someone here.
Yeah, someone here.
Do you think this is a game? Do you think that you and I was a game?
Amelie tells Inspector Javel that Dominic and Celeste had been briefly involved a few months ago.
Do I look like a fool to you?
But the whole time they were sleeping together, Celeste had been trying to unseat Dominic as first cello.
Never again!
When Dominic found out, he was furious and broke off the affair.
So you and Celeste had an affair, and when you broke up, you got a bit passionate.
No, yes. I'm an artist.
An artist with a motive?
How dare you suggest that I could possibly be capable of
She
committing...
wanted your job, Dominic, and she humiliated you, correct?
Yes, but I'll never be capable of committing such a...
We're done now. Don't leave the building.
Sex, ambition, jealousy. It's a classic emotional cocktail of the Molotov variety. Now, normally Dominic would go from first cello to prime suspect, but there's one problem. Everyone knows our hot-headed friend was playing when Celeste went AWOL. He might have given her the heave-ho as a lover and a rival musician, but he didn't kill her and hide her in the utility closet.
24 hours into the investigation, Inspector Javel gets a break.
Well, I was just going out back to get some fresh air, and I saw them talking.
When a violinist claims to have seen Celeste during the intermission, and Celeste wasn't alone.
I didn't really want to get into it, so I just kind of turned around and walked the other direction.
The violinist was probably the last person to see Celeste alive, but there's a problem.
I didn't really get a clear look.
She says she can't remember what the person with Celeste looked like.
Is it a man? Woman?
For cops, memory is both a blessing and a curse. People forget what they see. They second-guess themselves. Their memory fades. It's notoriously unreliable. But in any investigation, witnesses are also crucial. We need to know what they saw as accurately as possible. So sometimes, to get the old memory banks working, you need to try something a little outside the box.
Have you ever been in a hypnotic state?
You're joking, right?
Not in the least. Just keep your eyes on the pen and relax.
Oh,
It's you. Just, leave me alone. I need some space here.
yeah, I can show you the way to the backstage door. Get some real air back there. How about it?
No, that's okay. Just leave me alone, please.
That was weird.
Tell me what you saw.
It was a young guy. He looked like a stagehand.
It's Inspector Javel's first solid lead. If Celeste was last seen with a stagehand, she can now focus her interviews on a specific group of people.
Okay, that's all for now. But don't leave the building.
The coroner's preliminary report is ready, and the results are not what Inspector Javel was expecting. It turns out Celeste was not sexually assaulted, as she had initially assumed. When Inspector Javel was reading the coroner's report, something clicked. When she'd first arrived at the Opera House, she'd taken a mental snapshot of her surroundings and noticed the rigging used ropes tied in a very distinctive knot, the same knot used to tie up Celeste.
This is what we call a major break. A witness thinks she saw Celeste talking to a stagehand. And those knots, you don't see any musicians tying them. It seriously narrows down the suspect pool. Everything in this investigation is now pointing backstage, but that still leaves a lot of people. And our inspector needs more than finger pointing if she's gonna make an arrest. What can I do for her?
Inspector Javel interviews the backstage staff one by one, starting with Victor, the stagehand she encountered when she was retracing Celeste's movements during the intermission.
can you explain to me why you were cleaning up a few feet away from my crime scene?
I hate you know that?
Victor tells Inspector Javel that it's normal for the backstage crew to have a few drinks during the performances.
Who cares? No one can hear us back here anyway. So full of themselves, le bourgeois, le musicien. You know what? They'd be playing in a park without us. But we make more than them, so who cares, right?
The night of the concert, he was hanging out with his buddy Luke.
Oh, God.
When the police arrived looking for Celeste, Victor didn't want management to find out about their backstage activities, so he tried to clean up the mess.
So you fellas don't exactly hang out with you musicians, I take it.
Hell no. They make less than us, so they resent us. Even if we were making the same money, they'd still look down on us.
And this friend of yours, Luke, what did he get up to after your little refreshment break?
Back to work, I guess. You'd have to ask him.
Fingerprint time. Oh, and next time, you may want to spike your coffee with vodka. It has no smell. Where were you during intermission?
Next on Inspector Javel's list is Victor's friend, Luke.
I was taking a nap by the wardrobe area. Well, so what? Everyone takes a nap there sometimes. Away from the so-called music.
Did you see her?
No, I didn't see what's her name.
Her name was Celeste, and you better get used to it because we're not done talking about her. Did anyone see you napping?
How should I know? I was asleep.
We all know people who mix work with a little pleasure, and though that might be against house rules, it ain't exactly criminal. Nothing wrong with wanting to end your shift on a high note, right? But this stagehand's story is sounding a bit off-key to Inspector Javel. He's a little too, let's say, cocky for somebody being questioned about a murder, and that gets her attention.
Inspector Javel can't find anyone who saw Luke taking a nap during intermission. In fact, after his drink with Victor, no one can say for sure that they saw him at all during the window of time when Celeste vanished. Inspector Javel has now interviewed everyone who was there the night Celeste was murdered. And when she runs a fingerprint check on the stagehand Luke, she discovers he's been in trouble with the law before.
Assault with a deadly weapon 2 years ago. 7 months in prison. Victim, a woman. On parole. Got a backstage job through a government program.
Luke's fingerprints are on items removed from the crime scene. But far more significantly, the prints on the anonymous love letter given to Celeste are also a match for Luke's.
Miss my company, Inspector?
Inspector Javel now has evidence that connects Luke directly to Celeste.
Does any of this remind you of anything?
So the pothead stagehand with the attitude has left his prints like a trail of breadcrumbs from the love letter to the utility closet. But so what? It's not proof of murder. This is what we call the dreaded circumstantial evidence, and it's the hardest thing to bring to court.
Well, I do work there. You got any DNA proof?
So while it might not look good for Luke, that's all it is, a bad-looking situation, and you can't cuff a guy on bad looks alone. If that were the case, Luke would have been incarcerated long ago. Inspector Javel is gonna need some hard proof, or better yet, a confession. And that's when looking bad can work for an investigator. You use the circumstantial evidence to pressure a suspect by shoving that unflattering stuff in his face. And if he can't clean himself up convincingly, Inspector Javel might have a solid case.
You make me want to sing because you're my everything.
I got a kick out of messing with her. Highbrow type.
Very well. But a witness saw you and Celeste together, and no one saw you napping backstage. So where were you?
Napping, like I said. That string player, we work in the same place. Like, none of this amounts to murder.
You seem pretty confident, so I imagine you won't object to me searching your locker.
Look, you can't do that.
Yes, I can. So you like souvenirs, Luke?
Inside Luke's locker, Inspector Javel finds Celeste's hair clip.
I don't know how that got there. That was planned.
We both know how it got there, don't we? You're under arrest for murder.
With unmistakable evidence pointing to Luke as Celeste's murderer,
Celeste.
he knows there's no point denying the crime.
Okay, listen. Look, she had it coming. I just wanted to scare the people. Those people always treat us like crap.
Keep talking. If you come clean, maybe we'll be able to cut you a deal.
Oh.
Hey, golden tonsils, tattois, shut it! I'm rehearsing tonight. Get out.
She was so stuck up. Too sophisticated for someone like me, right?
Luke tells Inspector Javel that Celeste stands for everything he hates in life, especially privilege and snobbery. But he just couldn't resist the way she played music. Luke couldn't bring himself to approach the beautiful and talented Celeste, and as his unrequited love grew, so did his frustration and resentment, until the day came when he decided to teach her a lesson.
Who hasn't fallen for that person who's out of your league? Yeah, it's harsh, but most of us just suck it up and carry on. But some people just can't do that. I've seen this 100 times in my line of work. That unrequited thing that goes from heartache to hatred in a most bloodthirsty way.
It's you. Just leave me alone. I need some space here.
Look, I can show you the way to the backstage door. Get some real air back there.
Yeah.
How about it, huh?
I don't think so. Just go away, please.
We're getting some air. Move. And don't bother screaming. No one can hear you here anyway.
Okay, just don't hurt me. What are you doing, you piece of trash?
You like my letters, huh?
You've got to be kidding me. Let me go! Ah! Let me go!
Hold your legs still. Hold them still. I tie this rope.
Luke claims he tied Celeste up to buy himself a bit of time to skip town before she could raise the alarm. It's typical thinking when you're a crook who's gone too far. He says he just wanted to forget Celeste, leave her in the opera house all behind him. But he hadn't counted on the object of his hopeless adoration fighting back.
Oh, yeah.
Shut up!
Luke tried to leave the opera house, but got cut off when Celeste's friend went backstage to look for her.
So, he said we'd, cut a deal.
Just be grateful we retired Madame Guillotine a while back.
Luke is sentenced to 35 years in prison for second-degree murder.
What the hell? No deal?
Take it from me, you can't count on mercy just because you fessed up to the deed. Murder will always be murder, and giving it up is no guarantee justice will go easy on you. Luke is going to be singing to himself for the rest of his days.
Despite the tragedy, the show must go on, just as Celeste would have wanted. The orchestra plays a moving tribute concert in her memory.
They say music is the gateway to the soul, and even a punk like Luke has one of those. But he fell for the kind of gal he knew would never have anything to do with him, and instead of staying in the wings, he took on the starring role as the villain in a tragedy. Murder has to begin sometime, and those harmonious strains from Celeste's cello planted the seed of discord in our tone-deaf killer. Love can drive anyone crazy, and when you know it's hopeless, it can drive you and the object of your affection right over the edge. But thankfully for everyone, our backstage killer won't be getting an encore anytime soon.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, Texas is a wild place full of colorful personalities and deadly critters lurking around every dark corner. And when a heinous crime is committed,
well, murdering people ain't that hard.
It's up to a former Texas Ranger to uncover the truth.
Hey, Betty, wake up.
Because things aren't always as they seem.
Oh my God, she's not breathing.
In the Lone Star State. It's the summer of 1977, and the town of Lubbock, in the great state of Texas, is one hot place. Former rodeo star Dirk now runs a successful barbershop. Business is good, and he wants to hire a shampoo girl to help out. Betty is a former beauty queen with dreams of making it in Hollywood, but she ran out of money crossing the country.
Are you looking for some help?
Certainly am, darling.
And finds herself stuck in small-town Texas. Betty had the job before she even said hello. And it didn't take long before Dirk and Betty fell for each other.
You ever thought about settling down one day, Betty?
Maybe.
Maybe, eh? How do you like living in Lubbock? Is it your kind of town?
I like it a lot, especially the people.
And when Dirk finally pops the question, Betty says, I do. Before long, the newlyweds settle into married life like a regular Dick and Jane.
Say, Dirk, I'm feeling a little crummy. I gotta go home and rest.
Y'all talk it out today, Betty? All right, I reckon you just go home and take the day to rest then.
The next day, Betty remains at home while Dirk works his daily shift at the barber shop.
You said it ain't even my horse. I don't even know what's going down.
Come on, man.
Hey, Betty girl, we're home. All right, bring that on the table. Let's do this.
Longhorns better win tonight or I'm in deep on a couple of bets.
Hey, Betty. Betty, you up? All right, let me go check on the old ball and chain, all right?
All right, all right.
Hey, Betty. Hey, Betty, wake up. Dwayne! Oh my God, she's not breathing!
Those look like snake bites there, Dirk.
Right, we gotta call an ambulance. Hi, can we get an ambulance?
Detective Harris, a former Texas Ranger, is called to the house because the circumstances surrounding Betty's death are suspicious.
So you boys want to tell me what happened?
Well, found this around back. Betty picks up the trash. Maybe it bit her.
Well, that there is a diamondback. Those are killers.
Maybe that's what got poor old Betty.
Maybe. Maybe.
Throughout my career, I've seen more murder victims than I can shake a Texas stick at. Poor old Betty's death looks accidental, all right. The snake bites that Dirk found could very well be the cause of death. But as Texans like to say, just because a chicken has wings don't mean it can fly. And until the coroner orders an autopsy, we'll just have to wait and see.
The next day, the autopsy report lands on Detective Harris's desk. The coroner finds that Betty's system at the time of death contained large amounts of proteolytic enzymes, more commonly known as rattlesnake venom. And the series of bite marks are identified on her feet and ankles, indicating that she'd been bitten repeatedly by a snake.
Western diamondback rattlesnakes, also known as Texas diamondbacks, are real nasty pieces of work. I've seen them in the flesh, and you do not want to mess with those suckers. Their venom can cause severe paralysis before shutting the cardiovascular system down. They're responsible for the most amount of snakebite fatalities in the US of A.
Searching for new leads, Detective Harris learns that Dirk and Betty's neighbor Jane saw Betty the day she died.
And what time was that at?
It was around 4. She was by the back door. She was taking out the garbage and she was sweeping up.
Dirk was still at the barber shop at 4 p.m. that day, so that gives him an alibi. And the fact that the rattlesnake skin was found at the back door where Betty's neighbor saw her sweeping up makes a logical connection, indicating that's where she was bitten by the snake.
Detective Harris returns to Dirk and Betty's home to determine whether her rattlesnake bites were accidental or something more ominous was going on. The detective discovered an unsent letter written by Betty to her sister on the day before she died. In the letter, she writes about feeling ill, but her life here is great with Dirk, and she can't wait for her sister to come visit.
Betty's death is ruled accidental, and for the investigating cops, it's pretty much case closed and time to crack a cold one. That's beer, y'all.
But Detective Harris has a hunch. There's something hinky about Betty's death, and he continues digging. He learns Dirk was married before, and his first wife also died prematurely.
2 dead wives. Well, that's unfortunate. You want to guess how the first one died? Spider bite. So we've got one dead wife from a spider bite and the other from a snake bite. I mean, if Dirk was a zoologist or something, maybe. But a barber? I don't know, it seems a little weird, no? And by no, I mean yes.
4 years earlier, Dirk came home from the good old San Antonio Rodeo Classic to discover his then-wife Annabelle.
Annabelle.
Lying motionless on the bed.
My lord.
The coroner's report concludes that Annabelle's death is accidental, caused by a southern black widow spider bite. Turns out that Dirk cashed in his first wife's $20,000 life insurance policy and bought himself a Corvette.
Got something for you there.
Thank you. Hopefully this will help me get over the loss.
What the insurance company investigating Annabelle's death didn't know was that 2 weeks before her death, she was badly injured in a car accident. But despite the suspicious evidence, the car accident was ruled accidental and never investigated by authorities.
Well, that'll be...
With the information on Dirk's previous wife, Detective Harris is convinced that Betty's death was no accident.
All right, then.
I know times have changed, but come on, guys. A bloody hammer in the car, Annabella bashed up real bad, but Dirk, looking perfectly fine, even though he claimed he threw himself clear from the moving vehicle. Obviously, the local authorities should have pursued a thorough investigation. Sloppy police work makes Steve an angry cowboy. So now it's a murder case. And Rodeo Man Dirk, well, y'all, he's the #1 suspect.
While Dirk cuts hair at the barber shop, Detective Harris secretly bugs Dirk's home, hoping to find any evidence that can break the case wide open.
This is where the real magic happens, baby. Is that the best line you got there, Dirk? You have to do better than that, boy.
Police discover that Dirk is a connoisseur of the oldest profession in the world, with a regular stream of prostitutes visiting him at his home. Armed with the evidence of the prostitutes, police now have enough to bring Dirk in on solicitation charges.
So you like the ladies?
Sure, I guess you could say that.
This is where the real magic happens, baby.
With Dirk in the hot seat, Detective Harris uses the opportunity to question him about the deaths of his 2 ex-wives.
First a spider bite, then a snake bite. And that seems like one of those coincidences, don't you think?
Well, no, not really. I mean, there's razzers all over this place. As a matter of fact, I think we're both pretty lucky that we ain't been bit and killed by one of these snakes already.
Is that so?
Yeah, that's so.
Dirk plays the innocent dumb guy angle to a T. The investigators know he's hiding something and want to nab this guy real bad for murdering Betty. But right now, they need some hard evidence or it's back to haircuts, football, and hookers for Dirk.
Harris brings Jane, the neighbor who was the last person to see Betty alive, back in for another round of questioning.
I don't know why you brought me down here again. I told you everything you needed to know last time.
Is that so? Tell me something, Jane. Why do I get the feeling you ain't giving me the whole picture?
Okay, I'll tell you the truth. Dirk paid me to lie. I really don't know where Betty was the day she died. I don't. I'm sorry.
Now we're cooking with gas. This is the first break in the case and the first piece of evidence against Dirk, but it's still circumstantial. What Harris needs is something conclusive that ties Dirk to Betty's death.
When Harris re-examines Betty's letter to her sister, this time with a focus on her handwriting,
it's all over the place.
He concludes that she was most likely under the influence of alcohol when she wrote it.
So Dirk's alibi is falling apart by the second. We got the corrupted neighbor who offered an alibi for money. Betty's very intoxicated handwriting. I consider both of these discoveries as evidence of a cover-up. The widowed rodeo star who impatiently waits to collect his insurance payout is looking more and more guilty.
Detective Harris meets with the insurance agent who issued the life insurance policy on Betty, hoping to dig something up on Dirk.
This is the policy I issued. He took out Betty's policy within a week of their wedding.
Really? Well, that seems quick.
You can say that.
M is for, wrong, motive, which has clearly been uncovered here. Now, that's not to say that all people who take out life insurance for their partners have the motive to murder them. But when you've got a situation with back-to-back policies, both paying out with freak accidents like spider bites and snake bites, then you have got to start connecting the dots.
Meet Maurice.
You know, I was out there at the Robinsons' ranch the other day, looking for critters.
He works in roadkill and pest removal, and is a regular customer at Dirk's barbershop.
You know, I caught this spider the other day. and I took it home. I looked it up in my old encyclopedia, and I think I found a brand new spider. Do you think something like that they would name after me? Maurice the Spider.
Maurice is a heavy drinker and spends most nights at the Dun Inn.
You know, murdering people ain't that hard. No, sirree. My buddy's wife never even saw it coming. It was perfect. Perfect.
Honestly, I mean, this Maurice is a real piece of work. I mean, who gets drunk, starts telling a bunch of strangers about how you helped kill somebody? The perfect murder, no less. Here's a pro tip. It ain't perfect if you tell people about it. There's just no shortage of cold-blooded dummies out there. It never ceases to amaze me.
An anonymous caller from the Dun Inn contacts the police and tells them about Maurice's story.
So what can you tell me about the death of Dirk's wife, Betty?
I really don't know what you're talking about, Detective. I'm telling the truth. You gotta trust me.
Do you know how much time you're gonna get if you're lying to me? Hard time. And I got friends who can make it happen. Let's try this again, Maurice.
I just wanted to help.
Maurice eventually buckles under the pressure and tells the police that he helped Dirk move his dead wife's body to the bedroom, but that he had nothing to do with the poisoning part.
Did someone say poisoning? Well, that's interesting. I thought Betty died from a rattlesnake bite. I don't know. Maybe it's all my years at the FBI talking, but this cowboy Dirk, he's looking guilty as sin. Now they gotta uncover something that'll back Maurice's story up.
Betty's body is exhumed, and a second autopsy is ordered. The authorities want to see if there were any other foreign toxins in her system, other than the venom produced by the Texas diamondback.
Alkyl, dimethyl, benzyl, ammonium chloride, sodium nitrate, rubbing alcohol, blue dye. Blue dye?
Okay, let me think for a second. Where would you find a liquid substance that combined a very strong disinfectant that also included a large quantity of rubbing alcohol and blue dye? Come to think of it, I was at the barber just last week, and I think I saw something that just might fit the bill.
Armed with the results of the second autopsy, the insurance policy, the letter, the next-door neighbor recanting her story, and the statements from Maurice, Detective Harris arrests Dirk for the murder of his wife, Betty. At Dirk's trial, Maurice reveals he did more than just help move the body, and tells the court exactly how Betty died.
So when I go to try and grab this dead possum, look out! This big, ugly diamondback was staring right at me. I figured it wasn't worth it. Called it a day and grabbed the cold one.
Maurice has plenty of experience with critters, such as rattlesnakes, and it gives Dirk the idea of how he's going to execute the crime.
Yeah, there's a lot of those rattlers around here, aren't there? Say, you wouldn't know where I could buy one of those, would you?
Buy one?
Yeah, you know, like some people, they want to put it in a zoo or something like that, you know?
Oh, well, that's easy. I can get you one of those down by the highway any day.
All right.
You gotta be kidding me. In all my years at the FBI, I have never come across a rattlesnake as a murder weapon. I mean, full marks for originality here, that's for sure. But in terms of an intelligent approach, not so much.
Say, Dirk, I'm feeling a little crummy. I gotta go home and rest.
Y'all tuck it out today, Betty? All right, I reckon you just go home and take the day to rest then.
When Betty falls ill at work, Dirk decides today is the day to put his plan into action.
Maurice, it's Dirk. It's going down tonight. Betty, I brung you a doctor. Feeling all right? This is Dr. Moore, Dr. Morris.
Howdy, ma'am. How you feeling there? Oh, geez, heard you been laid up?
That's right.
Well, you know what this doctor prescribes? Bourbon. This'll fix you right up.
You ready?
Here you go. Yeah. Tilt her back now. Yeah. There, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the good stuff.
Have some more. That's the doctor's prescription.
It's fixing you. Yeah. You're feeling it work. Come on now. Yeah, that's right. There you go. Yeah. Oh, that sucker's angry, man. Oh, boy.
All right, leave some of that for Daddy, all right? All right, take her feet.
Oh, boy. How come it ain't better yet? I think it better.
I think you're right.
So you get her drunk, tie her up in a chair, and put her feet in a box with a rattlesnake. Okay then, points for imagination, I guess. But the million-dollar question is then, why bother using the hericide as a poison if you've already got a deadly rattlesnake that's actually bit her multiple times?
6 hours after being bitten by the rattler, Betty is still alive. For now.
Can't stand it. It's taking too long. I'm gonna go down to the barber shop and I'm gonna get something that's gonna move this along. You just wait here, all right? Hey, Mo, what happened to the snake?
Oh, I'll find that for you by the time you get back.
Yeah, you better, because we're gonna need that skin for evidence.
Dirk's way of speeding up Betty's slow death is to feed her the hericide he uses at the barber shop.
Worked real well last time.
She's gonna die anyway.
You're not soon enough. You should go get that snake skin, put it around back.
All right.
What we have here is a guy who is panicking because he's impatient. His nerves can't handle the weight, so he reverts to an MO that he's probably used before. The toxic disinfectant that he uses every day at work. I'll bet your bottom dollar that his first wife's spider bite had a little hericide in it as well.
For his part in the crime, Maurice is sentenced to 15 years behind bars. Dirk is found guilty in the murder of his wife Betty and is sentenced to death.
Here's a little dose of irony, Texas style. If rodeo man Dirk wasn't so impatient, he probably would have gotten away with murdering his wife Betty. The rattlesnake bites would have eventually proved fatal, and since those nasty suckers are so common in Texas, nobody would have questioned the death. I guess the moral of the story is, patience is a virtue.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, Jesus works hard to make ends meet in Mexico
I wish you could follow your heart.
until he rolls the dice on a move to Vegas
2 lottery tickets. Atta boy.
and hits the jackpot.
I can take care of you now, Mama.
But in Sin City,
I'll take the fault for the right price.
You can do that, right?
there's always a devil waiting to make your life go bust.
No, please. I'm talking to him.
You're ripping me off just like everybody else.
Living in one of Mexico's poorest regions, Jesus and his adoring mother, Esperanza, spend their days struggling to make ends meet.
Okay. Jesus, tortillas.
Momento, Mama. It's for you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, ciao.
Life may be hard, but Jesus finds joy in his passion for magic.
Hey, Mom. Show you a trick. Pick a card.
No.
There. Put your hand on it.
Okay.
Okay. Look.
Increíble, Jesus. You're such a talent. I wish you could follow your heart.
Actually, I could. Remember Alejandro?
Jesus' childhood friend from the barrio, Alejandro, moved to Las Vegas 2 years ago and recently offered to help Jesus join him.
I'm not going without you, Mama. Te quiero.
For a year, Jesus saves every penny so that his dream of moving to Las Vegas with his mother can come true. But when it happens, the reality is nothing like he imagined.
Ay caramba, eh, Jesus? We gotta clean up all this crap. What you see here, don't go running off at the mouth like those cleaning ladies, all right? Comprende?
Yeah, Tom.
Unable to read and write English, Jesus is forced to take the only job he can as a post-party cleaner for major hotel chains on the Vegas Strip.
Boy, I sure would like to meet the gal that fills this one out. Hey, think fast.
After a 12-hour shift, Jesus is about to catch the first of 3 buses to take him home to the tiny apartment he shares with Esperanza, when Tom offers him a ride.
I'm going into the corner store to get some liquor. You want anything? Gum, candy, mints,
2 lottery
soda?
tickets.
2 lottery tickets. Atta boy, Pedro. You're getting into the Vegas vibe.
It's just lottery tickets.
2 tickets today. Best friends with my bookie by the end of the month.
I'm with Jesus on this one. Give me a job with a stable paycheck and a good retirement plan any day. But I'm boring like that. When my friends drag me out to the casino, they play the tables while I head straight for the buffet, because the only thing I'm willing to bet on is how fresh the shrimp is.
And this week's winning lotto numbers are 7, 19, 20, 24, 43,
¿Serio?
45, 49.
We won.
Jesus collects a cool $22 million. Jesus uses his newfound wealth to buy his mother a new house and car.
This is beautiful, conejito.
I can take care of you now, Mama.
But when Jesus' family back home learn about his big win, they decide they deserve a cut.
I get that people want to win that big old lottery payout, and hey, I'm human. I imagine what it would be like too sometimes. But my work has taught me that getting rich quick has its downsides. Sometimes what you get is a jackpot of disappointment and trouble.
Jesus' family aren't the only ones trying to get their fingers on his cash.
Get out of my way, Mama-san. Let me at him. I'll talk to him. Let me talk to him first there. Hey, Jesus. I bought that lottery ticket at the corner store fair and square. You owe me half of that money.
Estás loco.
No loco there. There's the check there. Put my name on it. My name's Tom.
Muy loco.
No muy loco there. If you don't write that check, I'm gonna sue you. You know why? Because this is America, and I can do that.
Tom, please.
No, please. I'm talking to him, not you.
Tom launches a lawsuit claiming he's entitled to half the winnings. The case is thrown out of court, but Tom's betrayal has already done its damage. Jesus sinks into a deep depression. Assuming everyone he meets is after his money, Jesus starts hiding out in the house, spending day after day on the couch.
It's hard when you see the dark side of people, especially those closest to you. I know it's not the same, but a lot of police officers go through a similar phase after they join the force, because we get to see the worst of human behavior. And that's one of the reasons I retired. Now that I'm home every day, I don't have to deal with the worst of human behavior. My wife does.
Who else wants my money? Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Ellie, and I'm a personal wealth manager specializing in working with recent lottery and casino winners.
Okay.
Your name was passed on to me as a recent winner who might need some financial advice.
Jesus thinks Ellie could be the answer to his prayers and immediately makes an appointment to see her.
Jesus, thanks so much for coming in. So, you've got a lot of people asking you for some money.
Well, pretty much everybody I've known.
Tell me about it.
Ellie gets Jesus to open up about his problems, mainly not being able to turn down anyone who asks him for money.
You put me in charge of your cash, and I'll make sure no one touches a dime. Really, I'm tougher than a pit boss.
What do you do with my money?
Invest it in life settlements.
So there are funds that buy up people's life insurance policies. Then, if that person dies early, the fund gets the payout. Basically, you're playing roulette with lives. Hey, I'll put $20,000 on Jerry down the street to die of a heart attack.
I'm sorry, but I can't read or write in English.
Oh, that's no problem. It's just a standard contract. Nothing to worry about. It's just all legal stuff anyway, so... Right there.
I know Jesus wants this money off his hands, but who hands over millions of dollars to someone they just met? That's not naive, that's insane. You're just rolling the dice at that point and hoping you don't crap out.
That's it?
Yeah, perfect.
Over the next few months, Jesus and Ellie become fast friends.
So Pepper. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm thinking of starting my own show as soon as I get all my big tricks down. You think I can saw you in half?
Sure.
Unlike the other people in Jesus' life, Ellie never asks him for cash, probably because she seems to have no shortage of it.
Sorry, my boyfriend and I were at the dealership looking at new sports cars. What can I do for you?
Well, I want to go traveling with my mom, and I would like to get some money.
The investments I put your winnings in are down. If you withdraw money now, you'll lose a bunch of its value.
Okay.
For someone who seems to be swimming in her own money, Ellie sure can't make a dime for anyone else. And that makes me think she's less focused on helping Jesus than helping herself to his money.
Or you could wait for the investments to rebound.
Jesus may already have gotten a lottery check, but maybe it's time for him to get a reality check and realize Ellie's taking advantage of him.
Hello?
Oh, hi. Is Jesus there?
Esperanza. Jesus told me you might call. He's actually on a magician's retreat, learning how to make buildings disappear and stuff.
When did he tell you this?
A couple days ago. But I have to go.
Okay.
Looks like Jesus' investments have bounced back after all. But why would a lifelong mama's boy leave town without talking to Esperanza about his trip, or more likely, taking her along?
But when Mother's Day rolls around a few weeks later, Jesus proves he hasn't forgotten about his mama.
Something doesn't add up here. You've got a guy who doesn't read or write in English who's suddenly writing novels over here. Either his retreat involves magically learning new languages, or he didn't write this card. And that tells me Jesus' American dream is turning into a nightmare.
My son is very depressed lately.
Is there any chance he would harm himself?
No, he would never leave his mama. We are mejor amigos.
Concerned about her son, Esperanza files a missing persons report with local police.
This letter, it's written in English, but he does not write in English, only Spanish.
Okay, let me take a look at it, ma'am.
It is not him.
Esperanza also shares the issues Jesus has had with family and friends since his big lottery win, including Tom's lawsuit. Detective Landon calls Tom down to the station to answer a few questions.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
So where you been?
I've been living out of town since the lawsuit ended. I've been off the grid on a medicinal marijuana farm in California. Keyword, medicinal.
Can anyone vouch for that?
Of course. Here's my partner's card. Call him.
Tom's alibi checks out. He's been living in California since the week after the lawsuit was settled. When Esperanza tells Ellie that Jesus is missing and the police are on the case, she rushes right over.
Hot chocolate? I know you're worried, but Jesus wouldn't want all this fuss. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about. He'll turn up any minute.
Hello?
Mama, it's Jesus.
Conejito, ¿cómo estás? Where are you? I was worried.
Oh, Mama, I'm just away. I need some space. I'll be back soon.
But where exactly are you?
Jesus tells Esperanza he has to run, but assures her he's fine and to call off the investigation.
Jesus? Hello, Jesus?
Oh, that sorts that out.
How would you look at that? Jesus just happened to call when Ellie was there, and right after she learned about Esperanza talking to the police. Isn't that such a coincidence? And you know how I feel about coincidences. Between that and Ellie's cavalier attitude, I think she's working Esperanza, which tells me she knows more than she's letting on.
I know Mijo's voice. That wasn't my son on the phone.
Detective Landon discovers the call from Jesus can be traced back to his childhood friend.
Do you know who Alejandro is?
See, Alejandro is our friend, Jesus' best friend. He made it possible for us to come to America.
I brought you in today to talk about Jesus.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Before Detective Landon can question Alejandro, he cracks.
I pretended to be Jesus, okay? But only to help.
Alejandro tells Detective Landon that Jesus asked for a favor.
He can finally practice his magic in peace, so he needs you to call Esperanza so she doesn't worry about him while he's away.
Okay, what?
Just give her a call and let her know everything's all right.
According to Ellie, the best way Alejandro can help his childhood compadre is pretending to be him.
Now that's a bizarre request. If Jesus is so happy on his travels, why does he need someone to pretend to be him? And why doesn't he just call the police and tell them he doesn't want to be found? Sounds to me like Ellie's bluffing Alejandro here, but she'll never tell.
Of course, Jesus wants to make sure you're taken care of or helping him.
Okay, what do I do?
It's amazing how people's morals and views can change once there's money on the table. The more cash, the more flexible people become. And Ellie's got enough money to make Alejandro bend over backward for her.
When Detective Landon looks into Ellie's past, he discovers she's no stranger to law enforcement. A few years earlier, she was busted for selling fake casino chips to gullible tourists. The scam may have earned her a tidy profit, but it also cost her a year in prison.
Ellie's like the local casinos, glitzy on the outside with promises of wealth, happiness, and those fuzzy drinks served in plastic flamingos. What? I like fuzzy drinks. You can't judge me. Oh, anyway, I know Ellie's kind. Underneath that shiny exterior lives the smarts of a pit boss, mixed with the cutthroat wiliness of a desert coyote.
You're gonna pretend to help Ellie.
Detective Landon hatches a plan to turn Ellie's scheming back on her, but it hinges on Alejandro's acting chops.
Get close to her. Record everything she says on this.
Ay.
Well, why are you up under your shirt?
No, you can't. Ellie hugs. She'll feel it.
Turns out Alejandro is a regular MacGyver, transforming Detective Landon's jumbo-sized pop cup into a recording device.
Yeah?
Okay.
Ellie thinks she's holding all the cards, but she doesn't realize that police are like the house. With enough time, we always win.
Come in.
Hi.
Hey, take a seat.
Okay, here.
Just working on my fishing lures, but you're welcome to join me.
Of course Ellie has a secret love of fishing, and I'm sure she's great at it. I mean, after all, she has lots of experience getting her hooks in.
I brought you these. Esperanza says you like them.
Thank you.
Determined to find his friend, Alejandro treats buddying up to Ellie as a full-time job.
Listen, Ellie, I need a favor. I mean, Jesus does. He's learning too much to come back from his magic retreats. Esperanza's getting worried again. If you could just make a few more calls to her and to some other family and friends, all paid, of course.
Sure. Just tell me when and what to say.
Great. Here's a list. Start at the top and work your way down.
Okay.
Wow, that's one crazy addiction you got going. Maybe you should cut back on the sugar.
Yeah, maybe I should. Hello, Juan?
Have you seen anything suspicious?
I mean, aside from her making me pretend to be my best friend,
After each visit, Alejandro reports his findings and delivers a tape of his conversations to police.
We have to push harder. We need something concrete on her.
I'm gonna need you to make another call to Esperanza. Tell her you're Jesus' bookie Ray.
His bookie?
When someone starts creating fake problems with supposed bad guys, they're usually setting up a fall guy. And most of the time, when you do that, it's because there's a body somewhere. And it's only a matter of time before the truth comes out.
You've already been such a big help to me, Alejandro, and I'm sure you've already figured out Jesus is not coming back.
Wait, what do you mean?
Alejandro, Jesus was killed. But I'll take care of you. Pay your mortgage, take care of your debts, start college funds for your children. I just need you to find someone to take the rap for his murder. You can do that, right?
Of course. See, yeah, I can do that.
When Alejandro reports the bombshell that Jesus is dead, Detective Landon decides it's time to go undercover as Mickey.
Do you want to sit?
Nope.
A hardened criminal with nothing to lose.
So, how do you two know each other?
Church.
Yeah. Going undercover is a great way for us in law enforcement to work a suspect for information. An undercover officer can win a target's trust, getting them to open up. The only problem is if things go south, the target knows you're onto them. And that's why going undercover is like playing poker with high rollers. If you want to win, you got to go all in.
And why do you want to do this?
Listen, I'm facing 35 years for a robbery charge. I'll take the fall for another charge for the right price.
Okay, great.
Mickey agrees to confess to the murder for just $65,000.
So tell me how you did it. Cut the crap. We both know you did it. And I'm not doing this unless you tell me.
Fine.
Ellie claims she invited Jesus over to discuss problems with his investments.
No mames, you're ripping me off just like everybody else.
I really think you're overreacting. You need to calm down. Issues arose with your investments, and I dealt with them the best way that I could. What are you doing?
I'm calling the police. I'm not dealing with this anymore.
That night, she does a little DIY project with Jesus's remains.
So what did I do with the body?
You portioned it and cemented it into a statue.
I portioned it
Yeah?
into a statue.
Yeah.
Where's my murder weapon?
Why?
Not wanting to hinge the police case solely on Ellie's confession, Mickey pushes her further.
I'll have to turn it in when I confess, make him believe it.
Detective Landon knows the stakes in this case are big, but if he can get the knife, that'll be the last card he needs to make a winning hand and take down the Queen of Cons.
Ellie knows Mickey needs the murder weapon to take the fall for killing Jesus, but she doesn't know he's an undercover cop trying to play her.
Ellie thinks she just got off scot-free, but she doesn't realize she handed over the information and evidence police need to prove she killed Jesus. She hasn't just tied up this case for us, she's put a pretty bow on it too.
Unbeknownst to Ellie, Detective Landon now has the evidence he needs to get a warrant to search the garage. There, he finds Jesus's remains encased in concrete. When the autopsy results come in, they show that Jesus has been stabbed multiple times in the abdomen by the knife Ellie handed over to Mickey.
Hi, I'm Ellie.
Take a seat.
Detective Landon confronts Ellie with the findings from Jesus's autopsy.
I know you killed him, Ellie.
I didn't, I swear. There was an angry bookie. His name is Ray. He stabbed Jesus. I wanted to go to the police, but he said if I ever did, he'd kill me too. No thanks, I'm good.
Oh, this isn't a drink. This was holding a tape recorder when you asked Alejandro to say he was Ray, a bookie.
I knew Alejandro was a snake.
Sure she did. That's why she spilled everything to him. If you ask me, Ellie's just mad because Alejandro tricked her all the time, while the best story she could come up with was an angry bookie. You'd think a Vegas gal could be more creative than that.
Fine, I did it. But I had to. I'll put it all back, I promise.
Just as I thought, Ellie was skimming money out of Jesus's accounts, taking advantage of the fact that he couldn't read or write in English. She thought Jesus was her cash cow until he started asking questions and her big-time con seemed like big-time trouble.
I'm calling the police.
Not willing to go back to jail, Ellie killed Jesus to keep him quiet. She's convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison.
Jesus wanted to live his dream, but he was driven by fear. Instead of taking control of his life when he won the lottery, he practically threw his money and his future at Ellie, just so he didn't have to say no to everyone trying to get their paws on his cash. But the problem with betting on a stranger is that sometimes you win big, and sometimes you find yourself face to face with snake eyes.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, when two wealthy retirees looking to help the homeless...
This is your new home, Frank.
I'm not sure what to say, man.
...take a vagrant under their wing, it seems like a win-win situation for everybody.
Plus some pocket money for walking tickles now and then.
But when a dead body turns up the victim of a hit and run, investigators wonder, is this a tragic accident? Or do they have something far more sinister on their hands?
Attention, please. The Dainty Dames lawn bowling team needs a third to fill in Saturday. See Ruth at the desk.
So, I said, Jimmy, not in the green room.
Oh. The last time you told that one, it was Mick, not Jimmy.
Jimmy, Mick, you've seen one, you've seen them all.
It's Tuesday, and that means movie night. Folks, tonight, Heaven Can Wait with Warren Beatty.
Well, we have other plans tonight. Now, don't we, Pete? Besides, there's only so much of that scoundrel Mr. Beatty one can take.
Speak for yourself, Flo.
Flo and Bee are two old friends who live together at the Spring in Your Step Retirement Village. It's an upscale, exclusive retirement community on Florida's Atlantic coast.
Good boy, Tickles. We won't be out long.
They're an unlikely pair. Flo's a former dog breeder from an established family. Years ago, her husband died suddenly, leaving her some insurance money.
I don't know.
Where's my lighter?
Oh, you're not lighting that in here.
Well, you gotta die sometime, so you might as well make the best of it.
Bee is an aging flower child who had a successful career promoting rock and roll bands. Their paths crossed in the 70s when one of Bee's rock and roll clients needed a dog groomer. Despite their different backgrounds, they hit it off and became the best of friends. It was fun at first in the retirement home, but they couldn't shake the feeling that they were still young at heart and deserved a more exciting retirement. When Flo and Bee aren't playing cribbage or golfing, they spend a few nights a month at the homeless shelter, lending a hand to the less fortunate.
Gentlemen and lady, last week we talked about dressing for success.
And from the look of things, we can tell that you've taken our advice.
So tonight, we're going to cover some more basics, starting with this little pearl of wisdom. A penny saved is a penny earned. Just look at us.
When I retired from the FBI, my wife thought I'd go crazy, with nothing to do, no bad guys to catch, and no crime scenes to work. Luckily for both of us, I spent a lot of time in the garage with my classic car collection. Did I say classic? I mean old. But let's face it, for a lot of retirees, life can get pretty monotonous. And these two dames are no exception. For them, mixing it up means amusing themselves with some charity work, and their generosity extends way beyond giving life lessons and slinging beans down at the shelter.
This is your new home, Frank. What do you think?
I'm not sure what to say, ma'am. This is also generous.
Oh, well, it's just like we said, Frank. We just know when somebody deserves a second chance. You said you used to be a writer, so this is your lucky day.
Now you can write all you want, but let's start with a little signature, shall we? Then we can add you to our Modest Arts Foundation as a member.
Well, what is this?
Just some routine paperwork stating that we're your landlords, but we pay all the bills and rent, plus some pocket money for walking tickles now and then.
That's what I call a generous offer. Walk my dog and you can write the great American novel. Now, far be it from me to cast doubt on the kindness of strangers, but it can be a risky business. As an investigator, I'm telling you that trusting old ladies like Flo and Bee are among the most vulnerable people out there, and the bad guys know it. Their intentions might be good, but for sketchy dudes like Frank, they're also the perfect mark.
Almost 2 years after Frank signs the agreement, police find his lifeless body in an empty parking lot. Detective Carey catches the case. Security camera footage confirms that Frank was killed by a driver who fled the scene. But the license plate is invisible, and the make of the car isn't clear.
As investigators, we don't like hit-and-run situations. People who commit them are the worst sort of cowards, and they sometimes get away with it because, like with this case, there's often no witnesses, no tags, no make of car if it doesn't leave any body parts behind, just a human body and some skid marks. And Frank has no ID on him. He's just another homeless guy whose life got tossed away. Sadly, he's forced to shelve the case as an accident until some hard evidence saying otherwise turns up.
A week after Frank's body is discovered, Detective Carey gets a visit from an insurance company investigator named Charles.
Hey, my premiums are already paid in full, and double indemnity comes with the job. Just ask my wife.
I already did, Detective, but that's not why I'm here. Your hit and run has been ID'd, Detective.
Go on.
A pair of elderly ladies, it seems, called the police when their 10 didn't show up to walk the dog. They were then directed to the coroner.
The dog?
Yes, the dog.
A standard life insurance policy has a maturation period of 2 years, after which any claims are generally not investigated. But Frank's policy was just 2 days shy of maturing when he was killed, which means Charles is obligated to investigate the manner of Frank's death.
You know, us detectives are no strangers to the insurance world. After all, life insurance is one of the main reasons people whack each other. But adjusters like Charles rarely get directly involved in police investigations, and Detective Carey doesn't know how this guy can help him find whoever ran down Frank.
The toxicology report shows alcohol and a sedative in Frank's system.
You know, most hit and runs, they take damage in the lower body, but Frank was hit in the chest. He must have been lying on the ground the whole time. Driver likely didn't even see him. This dude had insurance.
Yeah, he had a $3 million life insurance policy.
For a homeless guy. Holy shit.
Mr. Bob Reno was not homeless, detective, I assure you.
So here we have a homeless guy who wasn't really homeless, and it turns out he's worth millions to a pair of little old ladies. Now, down at the Bureau, that's what we'd call a big red flag.
Charles reveals that Frank was a down-on-his-luck writer who was rescued from the streets by two retirees named Flo and Bee. Not only had they set him up with a place to live, but according to the insurance documents, Flo has a little dog walking business, so they gave him a job too.
Free apartment and easy job. It's a pretty sweet deal, right? Pretty sweet for everybody, because Frank didn't have just one insurance policy. He had a whopping 10. That's why he was worth so much as a dead man. And the beneficiaries? Oh, come on. You've guessed by now.
That's him. That's our Frank. Poor man. How awful.
To trigger the insurance policies, Flo and Bee have to claim Frank's body. But because Frank's death is ruled an accident, the medical examiner has no reason to notify Detective Carey that he's been identified.
Carey.
But then, Carey gets a call from a detective from a different department who tells him he's heard about his case. It sounds a lot like another hit-and-run incident the other detective caught about 5 years back.
That's strange. Send me over the file. I'll have a look at it. Yeah. Okay, thanks, buddy.
The woman, Pearl Asner, was killed by a hit-and-run driver, struck in an almost identical manner as Frank. The case was never investigated, but two elderly ladies who weren't related to the victim picked up the insurance payout. It was unusual, but at the time, not suspicious. Armed with this new information, Detective Carey and Charles team up. Charles discovers that when she was killed, Pearl was living at the same apartment where Frank later lived, the apartment belonging to Flo and Bee. Like Frank, Pearl had also been homeless before meeting the two ladies. And when Pearl was killed, Flo and Bee had collected on the life insurance to the tune of $500,000.
Two homeless people suddenly worth a fortune? Well, that's quite a coincidence. And if you've heard me before, you know detectives don't believe in coincidences. But even though the investigators now suspect Flo and Bee are behind a sick and twisted insurance scam, there's no evidence tying them directly to the actual murder. All they know for sure is that the nice ladies helped out Frank and insured him, and those aren't crimes. Yeah, the whole thing looks highly suspicious, but it doesn't matter what it looks like. The question is, will they be able to prove anything? Or are these grifting grannies getting away with murder?
Would you like something to drink?
No.
No drink. But would you like a homemade hemp seed cupcake?
No.
Well, it's just such a shame about our dear Frank, isn't it, my good man? But I'm sure all our paperwork is in order.
I'm afraid there is a slight problem.
I beg your pardon? What problem might that be?
Well, there's an investigation going on into Frank's death. So you ladies might not be getting the money now or ever.
Ever?
I gotta go.
Thank you for coming. Bye-bye. God damn it, this is an outrage.
Now what do we do? They can't trace anything back to us, can they?
Oh, shut up and let me think.
I don't want to go to jail.
Stop talking. If they knew anything, we'd already be in jail. But we better find someone else or we're gonna go broke before you know it. Get dressed. We're going down to the shelter. Now.
Can you believe this? Our ladies are on the cops' radar, and they still think they can pull another fast one. And that's pretty bold, and that's pretty dumb. But Flo's right. Investigators can't prove anything yet, or else Flo and B would be doing the perp walk right now instead of heading to the shelter. They figure, why not? They can't bust them for being kind to the homeless, can they?
Detective Carey follows Flo and B around for the next few days. He's certain they're looking for another victim.
Well, you seem to be having a rough day, young man.
Maybe we can help him out. What do you think, Flo?
I think we most certainly can. What's your name, sweetie?
Phil. 3 p.m. Looks like our suspects are making a new friend.
Going undercover is all about blending in. And even though Detective Carey has an advantage because our ladies have never met him, there's always a chance they'll smell something fishy. Crooks are like that. They have this kind of built-in cop detector, so the detective has to be extra careful. If Flo and B realize they're under surveillance, they might bolt.
Well, now, what do we have here? Give me a second. Oh.
There's still nothing concrete linking Flo and B to Frank's hit and run, so they can't bring them in on murder charges. But they need to bring them in on something.
Okay. Thank you. Detective, we just caught a break. There is no dog business registered in Flo's name. So technically, Frank wasn't an employee.
So what? What does that mean?
Well, it means that Flo lied through her teeth on the insurance application. I know it might not sound like a big deal lying about a dog walking business, but when this little itsy-bitsy lie is put on an insurance form, which is then mailed to the insurance company via the United States Postal Service, it becomes a very big deal indeed. And it's federal. It's called mail fraud. I guess the gals didn't think that one through, did they?
Don't forget, it's hot yoga day today, folks. So limber up and boogie down to our brand new studio.
Oh my gosh. Hot yoga, huh? That sounds exciting.
Are you a policeman?
I'm afraid you're under arrest for mail fraud on charges relating to a dog walking service of yours.
Oh, well, this is exciting.
B, we're being arrested.
You have the right to remain silent.
The arrests send a shockwave through the spring-in-your-step retirement village. The news that Flo and B are fraudsters is hard to believe.
Present you by the court.
By busting Flo and B for mail fraud, Detective Carey can also question them about the hit and run that killed Frank.
What's all this fuss about, Detective? Honestly, do we look like crooks?
You seem such a sweet, smart young man. And so handsome, isn't he, Flo?
Handsome, handsome. Oh, this is all your fault, you imbecile.
Don't you start on me, you old bat.
Oh.
The mail fraud charges are enough for Detective Carey to get a search warrant for Flo and B's apartment. Carey finds some very intriguing items. What looks like a license plate number on the sticky note, and a driver's license that doesn't belong to either of them. Detective Carey discovers that the license was reported stolen a month ago.
Bingo. Take a look at this.
And the license plate tag number on the sticky note traces to a local car rental company.
Seems like our light-fingered ladies didn't do too much to cover their tracks. You'd think they'd be more careful, but it's surprisingly common for crooks to make careless mistakes when they think they're getting away with something. As it is, their house is a treasure chest of incriminating evidence, like a signature stamp with Frank's old John Hancock, a stolen license, a tag. They might as well have drawn our detective a map with X marking the spot.
The rental company confirms that the two old ladies returned the car with a damaged grille, the same night Frank was killed. Detective Carey sees what looks like blood on the front grille. He swabs it and will send it to forensics for DNA testing.
I guess they should have gone to the car wash. It's obvious that Flo and Bee mowed down Frank. But what would motivate these two old biddies to kill and then cash in? They could easily afford to live in a place like Spring in Your Step Retirement Village. So why? For thrills? Could they really be that bored? Or maybe they're not as flush as they're making themselves out to be.
Detective Carey knows he has a pair of killers in his custody. He's hoping that if he applies some pressure, he can get them to confess.
What's all this fuss about, Detective? Surely a little fib about a dog walking business doesn't warrant a jail cell. How awful. That poor, lovely man.
The lab results show that the blood on the car grill matches Frank's DNA.
Can you explain to me how this poor man's blood ended up all over the car that you two rented? Jig's up, ladies. If you know what's good for you, you'll start talking.
You've got us.
Oh, shut up! Shut up, you fool!
Shut up yourself, Flo. You were the one that started it anyway.
Oh, you're such an imbecile.
We have some very special guests tonight, folks. Backed by popular demand all the way from sunny California, it's Captain and Tennille. They're gonna do it for us one more time.
Oh, I just love it. But it's so expensive, Flo. I can't afford this. Maybe we can find some other place. That place down in Boca.
Oh, not a chance. I'm not spending my sunset years in some shanty town surrounded by the sunburned hoi polloi. This is the place.
We've got to be realistic. We're retired.
Oh, I'm being realistic, all right. Don't you worry. I have a very realistic retirement plan for both of us.
It only stretches so far, you know. Your savings, your pension, your husband's life insurance.
Bee tells investigators that she and Flo just didn't have enough money saved for retirement. Not if they wanted to live in a place like Spring in Your Step.
So the prospect of trading down didn't appeal to either of them, especially not to Flo, who's obviously the brains of the operation. I guess there are weirder motives out there. But anyway, when Flo's husband died, she learned a few things about how life insurance works, and she came up with a plan to make the rest of her retirement as comfortable as possible. But she couldn't do it on her own. The scam was more convincing with a sidekick like Bee.
It's a simple plan. Take in and insure a homeless person no one will miss. They die in an accident.
But $500,000, I mean, that doesn't keep you in the lap of luxury for long. Not if you're these gals. So with Frank, they didn't stop at just one insurance policy.
Are you sure about this?
Don't worry. This little stamp is going to make us rich.
Once they had Frank's signature, they could take out as many policies as they liked from different companies. As long as the monthly premiums were paid, no one asked any questions. They just had to wait 2 years for the policies to mature.
And I can't remember if it was Jimmy or Mick.
And once they thought those 2 years were up, Flo and Bee set to work.
Would you like another?
Or Jimmy.
Oh, not again. Oh. Heard that story so many times. He's out. He's out. Let's go.
I knew we should have gone to Pilates last week.
Just help me up, would you?
Bee, come on!
Go, 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 go!
Put your seatbelt on right this minute.
Flo and Bee tried to get away with murder and get a huge payout, but they made a critical mistake.
All right.
Okay, come on, let's do it. All right, go, go.
Okay.
But we screwed up the timing. The insurance wasn't mature. So they sent this investigator.
You screwed up the timing, not we. That was your job, you imbecile.
My job? You said you would keep track. Oh, you think you're so smart.
Flo and Bee are convicted on insurance fraud charges and Frank's murder. They get life without parole, and their sentences are to be served in the same prison.
I can't believe this.
You can't believe this.
You better watch your back in the food line.
Well, you better make sure I'm insured first, you old crone. We could have been sitting in Boca by now.
Oh.
They say you're never too old to try new things, and it turns out that's just as true for grifting and murder as it is for, say, lawn bowling. Flo and Bee looked like your typical harmless old ladies enjoying a golden sunset. But beneath those peace and love moo-moos, Bee was a limousine liberal who didn't want to travel coach in her old age. So she hitched a ride with Flo. And Flo herself, well, that blue blood of hers ran ice cold when it came to living the good life. She'd never trade that Gucci bag for a cheap knockoff. And as for the hapless victim, he too thought he'd landed in the lap of luxury. He didn't realize he was just a cash cow being fattened up for the slaughter, one premium at a time. You know, there are easier ways to fund that retirement, folks.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, Britney and her mother Mitzi are desperate for fame.
Ready to rehearse? How do I look?
And they'll do almost anything to get it.
Have you ever cheated?
Uh-oh.
But when one of them goes missing in the dead of night, police are left wondering if the price of superstardom is too high. Britney is a 25-year-old former beauty queen who works as a cocktail waitress and dreams of becoming a famous actress. And the only one who wants this dream to become reality more than her
You ready to rehearse? How do I look?
is her mother, Mitzi.
Would you like fries with that? No, I don't believe that at all.
Mitzi is a single mother who works double shifts at the local diner, having been passed over by the superstardom gods.
Who's gonna be a superstar? You are.
Mitzi has determined her own daughter will climb the ladder and join the Hollywood elite at the top.
Oh my God, Mom. Don't touch my hair. I spent like an hour getting it to look this good. Sorry, there's just this one hair. I said stop. Brittany.
You come across a lot of dysfunctional relationships in my line of work, but this mother and daughter duo takes the cake. Britney is a spoiled kid who thinks her mother is put there for the sole purpose of making her a star. And Mitzi is your typical overbearing stage mother who's determined to manage her daughter's career with an iron fist. The sad thing is, it's not all that uncommon in Hollywood. Remember Lindsay Lohan and her mother? Need I say more?
Britney's boyfriend, Connor, is a handsome but shy driving instructor who grew up around the corner.
Yeah, I saw him in the store. I thought I'd buy him. Surprise you.
Connor worships the ground Britney walks on and showers her with gifts.
Well,
Connor.
Yes?
Brittany's getting ready for an audition.
But I just wanted to just...
Goodbye.
Britt, you can do better.
I know, but he buys me nice things.
You need to find someone famous to buy you nice things. Besides, those flowers were cheap. Set your sights higher.
Mitzi's a true tiger mom who's not letting anything get in the way of Britney's success. Least of all, a driving instructor with no game. But that kind of pressure can weigh heavily on a kid. They may end up succeeding. Heck, they may end up exceeding their mother's expectations. But the question is, at what cost?
But despite the number of auditions Britney goes to,
You're kidding.
she continues to be rejected.
Did you get the part?
No! That's ridiculous! Why can't they see that you're a star?
Chocolate? No.
Britney continues to audition and continues to be rejected.
Why don't they like me?
Those director types are shallow and self-centered. They can't see past themselves. They don't know what they're missing. Go away!
But just when Britney is ready to give up on her dream of becoming a superstar, she gets a call that changes her life.
I got it? Oh my God! I got it! Yes. I got it! Yes!
But it's not quite the award-winning role she'd been hoping for.
Oh, what? It's to be a contestant on a game show.
So? Are you gonna be on TV?
Yeah.
Then we'll take it!
Stage mom Mitzi isn't too concerned at this point what role Britney lands. Much like Mama Kardashian, she seems to subscribe to the view that there's no such thing as bad publicity. And even an unknown game show could be their ticket to stardom and financial freedom.
The show is called The Truth Hurts, where contestants are hooked up to a polygraph machine and asked a series of questions. With each truthful answer, they win more money.
Okay! Britney, we're really glad to have you here. Let's start off slow to warm you up. Have you ever called in sick to work?
Yes?
And has she answered honestly, folks? Alrighty then, next question. Have you ever flirted with a customer for a bigger tip?
Yes.
Britney, you've got that star quality. The audience loves you, the camera loves you. All right, let's heat things up a little. Have you ever had surgery to enhance your looks?
Well,
Yes.
I got a boob job.
Oh.
Seems like easy money for admitting to a couple of minor transgressions. But in my experience, there's no such thing as a free lunch, and you and I both know that in the era of reality TV, there's gotta be a catch somewhere.
The show is a huge success. And not only does Britney win loads of cash, the exposure catapults her to a solid C-list celebrity.
I told you, the world would recognize a star once they saw it.
Both Britney and Mitzi quit their day jobs and focus on getting Britney's face on the cover of every magazine.
Sorry, Connor. It's over.
She immediately dumps Connor and starts dating a fellow reality star.
Oh my God, Mom! It's him! Answer it. Answer it!
Britney and Mitzi have achieved their dream. Not only is Britney newly famous, but they have money to boot. This dynamic duo believes that the gravy train has finally started running and there's no stopping it now. But we live in a world where celebrities come and go as fast as cold beer on a hot summer day, and there's always someone newer and younger clawing at your heels. If you're smart, you'll parlay your 15 seconds into a fortune fast, but if you're not, well, you'll just end up another Hollywood has-been.
Hoping to capitalize on Britney's newfound fame, Her mother keeps her schedule packed with auditions and interviews. So when Britney misses an appointment for a starring role in a new reality show, Mitzi is furious.
What do you mean she didn't show up?
But when Britney doesn't come home that night, Mitzi fears the worst. She calls 911 to report her daughter missing.
No, she hasn't been missing for 24 hours. But do you know who my daughter is? Does Britney the Vixen ring a bell?
When they refuse to take her seriously, Mitzi turns to social media. News of Britney's disappearance spreads like wildfire.
Thank you for seeing me.
When the mainstream media grabs hold of the headlines, the police finally take Mitzi's concerns seriously.
Is this your daughter?
Of course it's her. That's me in the background.
Detective Pablo tells Mitzi that her daughter's car was found parked outside the latest Miami hotspot. In it, they found Britney's purse and phone.
But she was nowhere to be found.
My Britney. Where's my Britney?
So there's two ways of looking at this scenario. One, Britney went out clubbing, went home with some guy and is sleeping off her hangover somewhere in the city. The other is that she's a victim of foul play. And over the course of my career, when you find someone's purse and cell phone abandoned in their car, it's usually the latter.
She called me on the way to her audition, and I haven't heard from her since.
Detectives search social media looking for clues.
She hasn't posted anything in a while, and that's not like her.
In this day and age, reality stars live online. Their worth is measured by how many people follow them. So for a fame-hungry person like Britney not to post, it means that something or someone is preventing her from doing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mitzi gets the word out in the one way she knows how.
My name is Mitzi. I'm Britney's mother. She's the star of a new game show called The Truth Hurts. I'm imploring anyone who knows anything about my daughter's disappearance to come forward.
Meanwhile, detectives work to track down every possible lead. Acting on a tip generated by Mitzi's news conference, they track Britney down to a motel room in a rough part of the city.
Police, open up! Are you alone here?
But instead of a glamorous reality TV star, he discovers a different young woman who's run away from home. Detective Pablo has exhausted all leads.
I just wanted to come to tell you myself. It wasn't her.
I know.
Until Mitzi receives a ransom note in the mail.
There was a knock on the door. I found this. I thought it was a gift from one of Britney's fans. That's the exact amount she won on the show.
Criminals usually target the children of wealthy folks, not working-class people like Mitzi and Britney. Not to mention that Britney's been gone a full week now, and any kidnapper worth their salt would have been in touch sooner than this. So these are either the stupidest kidnappers on the planet, or follow-up isn't their strong point. Either way, these guys are looking like the latest version of Dumb and Dumber.
In an attempt to decipher the origins of the note, detectives take a DNA sample from the saliva on the envelope and run it through their criminal database. But Detective Pablo gets a lucky break when he notices the postmark on the envelope. It shows the letter was mailed at a nearby post office, which means that the kidnappers could be local.
Tracking down kidnappers in this day and age can prove difficult. These cowards can hide behind a million ones and zeros, which means they can be operating in another country or just down the street. But this kidnapper may be showing his age by using an old technique and snail mail to boot. But just because the letter was mailed from somewhere in Britney's neighborhood doesn't mean that's where the kidnappers are holding Britney. It could simply be a ploy to throw investigators off the track.
Why am I here?
Detectives are starting to wonder if this is a publicity stunt orchestrated by none other than Britney and her mother.
Is this a trick for you guys to get even more famous?
I would never hurt my baby. You fool.
Then, would you mind providing us with some saliva samples?
No way. You can't treat me like a common criminal.
Mitzi, it will help us with our investigation to find Britney.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Alrighty then, Britney, are you ready to roll?
Bring it on.
Ha! Have you ever cheated?
Uh-oh. Mom's not gonna like this one. Yes. In the state beauty pageant.
I hate to ask, but not really. What did you do?
Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag now. I just lied about doing charity work. It was like so boring. I just couldn't do it.
Mitzi has sacrificed her whole life so that Britney can be a star. But she's just revealed on national TV that she's basically a fake do-gooder, a fact that will likely cause her to lose her coveted crown. It makes you wonder if that's enough for someone deeply invested in Britney's success, like Mitzi, to snap.
But when the DNA results found on the ransom note come in, the saliva on the envelope doesn't match Mitzi.
I told you I didn't do it, you idiot.
With Mitzi ruled out as a suspect and no further contact from the kidnappers, police are stymied. Until a waste collector stumbles upon her body during his daily pickups.
This missing persons case has just turned into a classic case of whodunit. And what we have here is the work of a very angry perpetrator. To hide her body under a bunch of garbage bags shows blatant disregard, disrespect, and maybe even outright hatred for the victim.
An autopsy reveals the cause of death was by drowning. With no evidence to prove she was bound or held against her will, Detective Pablo believes she was killed shortly after she was abducted.
This is horrible. Just horrible. I don't know what I'm gonna do without my Britney.
Do you know anyone who would want to hurt her like this?
She just broke up with her boyfriend. But he's so meek. He wouldn't hurt a fly.
Police bring Connor down to the station for questioning, but he denies ever seeing Britney on the day she disappeared.
She didn't love me anymore, so...
But when detectives question him further, they discover some suspicious behavior. Connor reveals that he moved out of his apartment a few days after Britney went missing.
Why did you move?
Because I couldn't afford it.
Their suspicion heightens when Connor tells detectives he sold his car, too.
An ex-boyfriend is always a suspect, but when he moves out of his apartment and sells his car shortly after his ex-girlfriend goes missing, well, that's a sure sign someone's getting ready to flee. And nothing says guilty like a man on the run.
Connor is given a polygraph test to determine whether or not he's telling the truth.
Do you still love Britney?
No.
Were you upset when she broke up with you?
No.
Did Britney come see you on the night she disappeared?
No.
Connor. Really, why don't you just fess up?
I didn't mean to... I didn't mean to hurt her, I'm being honest.
Connor says that Britney came over to his house to pick up some money that he owed her. One drink led to 4. and they decided they were meant to be together.
I never stopped loving you. All the reality stars in the whole world could not measure up to you.
Yeah? What about your new boyfriend?
He's so yesterday.
Connor tells detectives he thought they were going to get back together and get married.
Connor, I can't marry you.
What? Why not?
Because I don't love you.
Connor, shocked and hurt, turns to leave,
Connor, wait.
but is stopped in his tracks by what Britney says next.
What about the money you owe me?
Is money all you care about?
Ow, stop it! Ah!
I didn't mean to hurt her, honest.
That's good, Connor. Now, why don't you just tell us what really happened?
Okay.
It doesn't take a lie detector to tell Pablo that Connor isn't telling the whole truth. Pure cop instinct says that Connor knocked Britney off. The real question is whether or not it was premeditated, and that's a big deal when you're standing before a judge. And it could mean the difference between whether Connor lives or bites the proverbial dust.
Detective Pablo knows Connor is lying about his encounter with Britney,
Here is a toxicology report.
and the toxicology report confirms his suspicions. There was a strong sedative in her system that would have rendered her unconscious before she drowned.
Are you ready to give it up now?
The fact that Britney was unconscious before she was drowned proves that Connor planned to kill her. In other words, it's premeditated murder, and Connor is in a whole lot of trouble. So we have means, we have opportunity, but the question cops now have to answer is, what's the motive? What would make a reserved driving instructor plot such an elaborate murder?
Okay, folks, we're upping the stakes and the money. Brittany, are you ready? Are you a waitress in a cocktail bar?
No, I'm not. I'm actually a stripper!
I did not see that coming.
Britney, stop!
Mitzi is devastated, convinced Britney's shot at a Hollywood career is over.
Britney, Britney, Britney.
But the audience eats it up.
Okay. Are you ready for your final question? Have you ever cheated on your boyfriend?
Well, I have to be honest. Yes, I have. It was with my sugar daddy, Biggie G.
Biggie, Biggie, Biggie.
My dear, you truly are an honest person. Congratulations!
Desperation for fame and money can drive people to do unthinkable things. In her pursuit of being a star, Britney has humiliated her boyfriend on national TV. The audience may love this drama, but the casualties involve real people with real feelings who can end up with real motives for murder.
Following Britney's rejection, Connor becomes more and more isolated and unhinged.
Shut up, shut up! Shut up!
And the media hounds him non-stop. As does his bookie.
Yeah?
They want him to pay back the huge debt he owes them.
I'm gonna get you the money by next week, I promise.
The pressure mounts. Until he finally loses it. Hoping to cash in on some of her winnings to pay back his gambling debt, Connor phones Britney.
Baby, you used me to get that money. I deserve half of it at least.
Connor, you still owe me money. I earned that. It's mine. Get a life.
And that's when good old Connor finally snaps.
Later that day, Connor invites Britney to his apartment, promising to pay her the money he owes.
Okay, I'm here. Where's my money?
But instead, spikes her drink with a sedative.
Let's have a drink before we talk about that.
No thanks.
Come on, it's a mojito. It's your favorite. Drink up.
Whatevs, I'm going out later anyway.
What?
Once she passes out,
How does it feel to be humiliated, Britney?
Connor drags Britney towards the sink and drowns her. Then attempts to cover his tracks. And lastly, sends a fake ransom note, hoping to buy enough time to make a quick getaway.
She humiliated me on national TV. Okay? I just wanted my old life back. Killing someone for humiliating them on national TV, man, even for me, that's rare. Looks like Connor's taking the meaning of reality TV to a whole new level. There's no going back.
In an attempt to lessen his sentence, Connor's lawyer tries to blame the television show The Truth Hurts. He argues it's responsible for humiliating him. But the judge doesn't buy it. Connor is found guilty of premeditated murder and sentenced to life in prison.
Britney and her mother Mitzi wanted fame and fortune above all else, and they weren't really concerned about who they hurt along the way. But that doesn't mean Britney deserved to die. If every fame seeker was killed for being ruthless on their way to the top, well, Hollywood would be a pretty lonely place. Just think of how many bachelors and bachelorettes that have been dumped on live TV, and not one of them have been killed by their ex. Connor may have been humiliated by Britney's confessions, but he chose to kill her because of it. That's all on him. It kind of makes you wonder if honesty really is the best policy.